Hey everybody, so apparently Elon Musk just dropped a massive bombshell on the stock market. He just confirmed that Neuralink, one of his companies, actually implanted a chip into a human being, and that human being is alive and kicking. Apparently might be even literally, based on what I've been hearing. Also, we have Jim Cramer actually revealing to us the secret sauce, the elixir to the tech rally we've seen recently. That's going to be interesting. Also, we have a Fed official from the past revealing their rate cut schedule for next year. Wait. It's already next year. This is 2024. We got it called Doug Brown and the DeLorean. So basically, we have a Fed official talking about the rate cuts for the second half of 2024. BYD, the new queen of the auto industry, according to mainstream media, has just missed earnings exactly like Tesla. And now they're talking about a potential collaboration with Tesla, saying they're not really competing. They're actually working together. Very, very interesting. India is set to become the world's third largest economy within 3 years, which is, again, something we've talked about it for years. Also, we have SMCI jumping 10% in pre-market because they just smashed through earnings and gave great guidance. We'll talk about that. That's a stock we've been talking about for 6 months. Also, we have the Saudis coming out and saying, well, we're not going to increase supply of oil. No. I know we agreed to give you 13 million barrels, but no, it ain't happening. We'll talk about that exactly in a second. And Tesla actually just became one of the top 10 oversold companies in the market, and we'll talk about that as well. So the first thing on our agenda is today's MVP. As always, today's MVP is sponsored by Stock MVP, your research tool for better understanding of the stock market, for better research, for better analysis. And today's MVP is SMCI, Super Microcomputer, a stock that just jumped 10% in pre-market and has done 50% over the past 6 months. Now, this is a stock I've been talking about since August of 2023, which seems like a lifetime ago. And I told you in a video posted in August of 2023, and that video is going to be linked below, that this stock is a great way to ride the NVIDIA AI wave with much, much lower valuations without paying the premiums of NVIDIA. Ever since I've made that video, the stock is up 50%, and today they smashed through earnings and gave great expectations, literally blowing past the whole expectations for this quarter, like Grandpa in 1986 in that Christmas party when he blasted through the screen door and went into the neighbor's yard. But that's a whole different video. That's going to be on our Patreon, patreon.com/Tom Nash. Grandpa stories over there. Now, here's a short clip from that video, just so you can see I'm not blowing smoke up your bum. Check it out.
Now, this company is currently trading at $277 per share. They are up 180% over the past 6 months. Yes, I just said it. They are up 180% over the past 6 months, but they're still hella cheap. Hear me out before you laugh and make a decision. I'm not just saying this. I'll get to the numbers in a second. Now, this company has massive NVIDIA exposure because what they do is they build servers. And they build servers with NVIDIA components. So whatever it is NVIDIA is doing, whatever that demand on the NVIDIA side, it's going to flow over to this company. Super Microcomputer is going to actually build the servers.
And yes, I did lose weight and I have less facial hair. Deal with it. Now look, Tesla has been selling off like crazy. And this recent sell-off of Tesla put it in a category which I don't recall ever seeing it. It is now one of the top 10 oversold stocks in the stock market. Now, look, Tesla is a very complex stock, but there's one thing that earnings negativity are not going to take away from it, which is that it's always been doing the same thing again and again and again. It's always been enriching the people who have been long-term investing and being patient, and it has always punished traders and annihilated short sellers that try to time the market. Tesla will do the same thing every time. The pros and the sharks will buy at the bottom when the mainstream media is pumping the most amount of negativity, and they know you guys, the retail investors, will be buying at the top when the hype is at its peak. In fact, nothing has changed for Tesla for the past few years. If you zoom out, you'll see that it's basically doing the same thing again and again, punishing the people who have short-term memory. Now look, a day ago, somebody posted on my YouTube video in which I said Tesla is going to be great, and they said, look, Tesla is heading to $120 per share. My response isn't to hate on the guy, but if this stock goes to $120 per share, I'm selling Grandpa and I'm going all in. Of course, I'm just kidding. I'm never going to sell Grandpa. We're probably going to rent him out for about a month. Now, let's talk about Saudi oil. So the Saudis had a plan to pump more oil into this market, going from 12 to 13 million barrels per day. I wish I had 13 million barrels of oil per day just one day. One day in my life, that's it. I don't need more. So jokes aside, Aramco, the state-owned company that produces oil on behalf of Saudi Arabia, had a plan to increase capacity, to increase output. That would have driven prices down. And now they've just announced they're not going to do that. They're going to stay at 12 million barrels per day. And they haven't really given a reason, although they did say this came all the way from the top, from the government. Now, what's actually going on here? Because this is really interesting. Look at the map of interests. It's always more important than the PR statements. Right now, oil is sub $80. Crude is below $80. And we're not going to see spikes in oil because oil is cyclical before the summer. For the next 6 months, oil is going to be down. Winter isn't a good time for oil. So in this situation, why would the Saudis pump out more oil right now and sell it for cheap when they can literally do it in 6 months and sell it for way more? Why not? I mean, this is literally like saying, hey, Saudis, why don't you climb the Everest naked chained to a tricycle? Why? There's no reason to do that, my guy. The same thing here. There's no reason to sell extra oil cheap when they can wait until July and August and pump out more oil then and make way more money. So it's a nothing burger. It's literally meaningless and it makes perfect sense. This isn't about geopolitics. It's about basic common sense. And now let's talk about BYD, everybody's new and hot favorite Tesla killer. So BYD just missed earnings. And it's not a surprise because Tesla also just missed earnings. This is what happens when you have price wars. Price wars lead to reduction in margins, which leads to missed earnings. That happens. Now, what's interesting is in the earnings call and in the post-earnings call interviews, BYD executives said some important stuff. For example, the price war in the EV sector will continue for the next 2 and 3 years. And some of the companies who are competing in this market right now won't make it. Obviously, it's not going to be BYD or Tesla for sure, but I think it's insinuating for the big three to really start thinking about the strategy to make out of this alive. Because if BYD and Tesla is having a little bit of a tougher time compared to what they used to, trust me, the big three will be hurting. So BYD also said they have no desire to compete with Tesla. In fact, they're a supplier of Tesla, which is 100% true, and they both are driving the EV change. So it's not like they're competing with each other. They're both viewed in the eyes of BYD executives as one group against the internal combustion vehicles, which is a good way to think about it. It's a healthy way to think about it. And also, the most important part, if you actually look at the offering of BYD, look, BYD is a very broad company. They're a supplier in a massive amount in the auto industry. In fact, Tesla is one of their clients, many clients in the EV industry. BYD will be fine even if they don't sell a single vehicle. They're a massive supplier. On top of it, the vehicle offering of BYD is very different than the vehicle offering of Tesla. It will never overlap. BYD make bare bones vehicles that are basically, hey, I want the cheapest possible electric vehicle, and that's their bread and butter. Sure, they have some expensive models, but they're not really competitive there. Their competition is in the $20,000, $15,000 vehicles. They're never going to compete with Tesla with their 25 to 45 to 55,000 vehicles. Different market segments, they can definitely coexist. In fact, I've been saying this for years. Tesla will be number one. BYD will surely be number two because they're a great company. And the only question for the next 5 years is who going to be number three? Is it going to be Toyota? Is it going to be VW? It's definitely not going to be Ford and GM. But I think competition will be between Toyota trying to pivot because they're way late to the game and VW who actually started a little bit sooner, but they actually dissed. Herbert dissed. Got it? This. And that was a huge mistake in that pivot. So we'll see what happens. Now, let's talk about India. So India is actually now on the pace to become the world's third largest economy. It's not a huge surprise. I've made a video a year ago telling you that India will take China's lunch. India is the next global superpower. It's not China. They have everything that China does not have. Friendly neighbors, great geography, a young population, no demographic issues, no energy issues, massive resources, great relationships with everybody. They're friends with Russia, they're friends with Iran, they're friends with the US, they're friendly with every freaking body. So India is coming up. Sure, it's not there yet. Nobody's saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but India is on the come up. They've already become the world's largest country. Within 3 years, they're going to be number 3 on the GDP map, and at some point, they will be number 2. Now, the only question is, what happens to China in this case? Obviously, the US is going to be there. India is going to be there. Is China going to be there in 2027, in 2030? Not likely. I've been saying this for years. China faces huge issues which it cannot solve. A massive demographic problem which is leading to a societal collapse which cannot be undone. A massive real estate Ponzi scheme which is responsible for 35% of China's GDP. Just yesterday, Evergrande got liquidated and there's more to come. China has a lot of issues, unfriendly neighbors, horrible geographies, massive resources supply issues. A lot of stuff not going China's way. A lot of things are going India's way. Look out for India for the next 10 years. They're going to absolutely kill it. Now, rate cuts are coming in 2024, but it's going to be later in the year, in the second half of the year, and we're going to see 3 rate cuts.
In my world, it's still the second half of the year, and for me, that's not a new view. I think what we've seen is an economy that is still strong. The last GDP print, I think, surprised a little bit. The good news is the last PCE print suggested that the disinflation process is underway, but there are some concerns that a few people might have. Some of the turmoil in the Mideast might lead to pick up slightly in goods inflation, and the service sector still is a little hot. So I think second half of the year still is my bet at this stage, and I think the market is starting to come at least in that direction.
And is that a 3-cut situation, a 2-cut situation, a 1-cut situation? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking may well be 3. The issue obviously is, fortunately, inflation looks like it is moving in the right direction. They have no need to stay in restrictive territory in the real rate, the nominal rate minus inflation.
Now, there's not a huge surprise there. It's very, very logical. And what I want to tell you here is, look, 2 things. Number 1, this is all already priced in. I think 3 cuts is approximately where most of market participants are pricing the Fed activity as far as the monetary policy goes for 2024. So if we see more than 3 rate cuts, the market is going to go euphoric. If we see less than 3 cuts, then the market is going to be upset. But here's the crazy part. You probably don't need to worry about these things and trying to time these events if you are a long-term investor. If you invest in good companies, if you invest in great businesses, then you are not concerned about the cost of money, about the change of interest rates because you're a long-term investor. One of the things that make it a great experience to be a long dollar cost average investor is not worrying about things like this. And now let's talk about Elon Musk literally doing sci-fi stuff from Total Recall. So Elon Musk just announced on X, formerly known as Twitter, that Neuralink just implanted a brain chip. I don't know what a brain chip is. A brain chip into a human being. And that human being is now doing well, according to Elon Musk. And this raises 2 questions in my head. One is, how can you hate on a guy who's literally devoted his life to developing things like this? Chips that are implanted in human beings that help them overcome paralysis. Hating on this guy? And I think more importantly, how would Tinder profiles look in 2030 with this? Instead of 6-packs, you got dudes kind of talking about their chipsets and their processors. Like, what is it going to look like? I don't know. We'll see. On top of it, we also have Jim Cramer actually revealing to us what is behind the latest market rally. Let's hear Jim.
Especially after a day where the Dow gained 224 points, S&P advanced 0.76%, tech-laden NASDAQ.
Now, Jim, I'm going to be honest with you. I couldn't understand the word you just said, but that's okay because the video is pretty much over. Before you go, 2 things. Number 1, if you want to improve your stock research skills, check out Stock MVP, stock-mvp.com. It's a platform I built. It's built by a retail investor for retail investors. Check it out. You get 1 week to try it out for free. Also, if you want to support this channel and if you want to sign up for Academy, patreon.com/Tom Nash. Would love to see you there and on our very active Discord. I'll see you in the next one.